And
Yeah,
you're right.
sure.
Hi, everyone,
Backend.
and welcome to
Hello.
Fidel's webinar, a backend, a frontend, and a QA engineer walking into webinar, fostering collaboration between developers. I'm Anna, I'm part of the Landing.Jobs team, and I'll be your host for today. As we are wait for the ones that are still joining us, I hope you are well seated and ready for the next hour. For those of you who don't know yet, Fidel is a global API for consumer financial data with a mission to democratize access to financial data globally so that consumers are in control of their data. And today here we have with us from Fidel, André Santos, Senior Backend Engineer, Stefanos Versanes, QA Engineer, and Jorge Dias, Front-End Engineer. From the ones that just joined us, welcome. I'm Anna. I'm part of the Landing.Jobs team, and I'll be your host for today. Once again, we are here with André, Stefanos, and George from Fidel, and we are going to present us a webinar focused on fostering collaboration between developers. If you have any questions throughout the session, please feel free to do so in the Ask a Question button that you find in the bottom right of the crowdcast, and we'll answer them in the end. During this presentation, feel free to also leave some comments on the chat, and we also keep an eye on it. André, Stefanos, and George, thank you so much for being here with us today. The stage is now yours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Anna. You did a very good setup of everything. I think you said the setup, the company, everything. It all went pretty well. So I'm sharing my screen right now. I hope everyone is seeing. So because this is very strange in the sense that at least I'm not seeing anyone else, and I can see your faces or comments. So I'm expecting if something is not working, please, Jorge or Stefanos, shout out to see if we can take this to good port. So guys, everybody, so thanks a lot for joining. We're about 55 people, so this is awesome. This is another webinar that Fidel is doing. We're going to touch a little bit also on what we did before, but this webinar is exactly like Anna was mentioning. So we're developers, all of us, and this is more tailored to a human part of the development. So this is more for values, for culture, and that's why we're using this webinar to actually talk about the that last part of our title, which is the fostering collaboration between developers. And this is what we want to focus. So it's more people oriented, more human oriented. So a little bit of behind the scenes and what we do at Fidel. Why is this important? So before we did the webinar, it was in June, and we talked. At least our colleagues Diogo and Gonçalo went a little bit deep in the infrastructure level. So how did we build these financial and fintech products using AWS? So it was very technical, talking about the company, what type of tools we use, the services in AWS, and so on. So it was very hard skills, and here we want to focus a little bit on the soft skills of it. So a little bit of context first. So what is Fidel? So Anna already did a good job, and she basically mentioned in one liner what Fidel actually does. But let's try to spin it a little bit in another way. So what is Fidel? And Fidel, by the name, you already understand it's an API. But what does it do? So we are basically the layer that sits between card payments, so the card networks, the typical Mastercard, Amex, and oh, sorry, I was missing the slides. So it's basically the card networks and what clients want to do with those card network information. So imagine any company that wants to build on real-time transaction information from cards. They can basically rely on Fidel to actually provide that infrastructure for them. And why is this important, and where is this being currently used right now? So we're basically partnering, and we're basically this layer for the card networks for a couple of companies that probably you already know. So products like Google Pay and loyalty programs such as Top Cashback and Perkbox and other products within Royal Bank of Canada, they basically use Fidel as the infrastructure to actually access this card network data. So just in one small also image and diagram to understand why is this difficult and why does Fidel actually bring value. So the card networks are very traditional, conservative. There are several systems. Some are legacy, some are new. So there's a lot of complexity in this space. So what Fidel actually does is try to standardize and make like a single, flexible, simple API layer for you to interact with all of these card networks and get transaction data, location data associated with those transactions, brands, card information. So all of these enhancements and enrichments that can be done on top of that information. So we're a data company that allows you this access to this information. So this is what we do and a little bit of how we do it. So the integration layer. But again, this is not what we want to talk about. We can revisit the other webinar if you want. There's the recordings on both Landing.Jobs and on both Crowdcast. You can see that afterwards. Here we want to focus more about on the people part. So, and for this, let's start by answering or trying to answer the question that we had on our title.
Yeah, I can pick this up from here, maybe. Thank you. That was a very good presentation regarding, I think, the last slide, which shows like all these pipes going into very nice small integration between the networks. But this, of course, seems very simple. But in order to make it simple, you need a lot of. It's hard to make something very complex, very simple. So what we actually need is a lot of highly skilled and very good people. So at first in Fidel, we started to build an engineering team from scratch, and we started to hire very many and very skillful people around to build this product. So slowly and slowly, I think Fidel started in 2019 with 20 people. That was like kind of the equivalent of a family, like you have your own family that you work with and you know pretty much everyone. And then I think it went from in 2020, it went to 50 people. I think you can say like this is like the equivalent of, I don't know, like a football club. Like, you know, you have your teammates, you play every day, but there's also like support staff, physiotherapists, etc. that from time to time you get to know and interact with. And then we went in 2021, we went up to 100 people. That's kind of like the equivalent of your high school class. Like, you know, a lot of people around you, but there are like other classes around that you have barely touched. And there are people that you just see every day, but mostly never interact with. And this year, I think we're aiming to become like 200 people. So like you go into a Zoom chat and you see like, oh, new faces, like who's that? Who's that? Who's that? You barely interact with. So how do you actually start to interact with all those people every day? And how do you make all these people work together into creating something complex, making it very simple. And actually, the question for that is like you put a lot of structure in your process, and you put a lot of structure in how the teams and the people are organized in order to do the daily work and get things done in the end. So I think that in Fidel, we're working with kind of like what's trending to become the industry standard. We're working like with the Spotify model, which is like we have tribes, and the whole of Fidel at the moment is like one big tribe. We're more than 100 people, so we can be considered a tribe. And inside the tribes, we have actually product teams, and product teams are composed of pretty much everyone, like backend engineers, front-end engineers, etc., etc. So we have, I think we have at the moment like 7 or 8 product teams. And then there are also other people who are very highly specialized in cross uh, like cross-cutting teams who are very specialized, for instance, in infrastructure or security or IT management, and they work with all the other product teams. Maybe today they work with transactions, tomorrow they work with offers, etc. And at the end we have communities, and actually communities is like all the backend engineers are getting together, all the QAs are getting together, and all the front-end engineers are getting together. So we have different structures to fit different needs that we want to inside Fidel. And mostly like every day on a day-to-day basis, you have teams that are focused on product. You work on the product team, and then you are also part of something else, like the community of a QA, for instance, me specifically. And inside those teams, you have more or less 3 to 8 members, and everyone's there. Like you have a backend, frontend, QA. You have an engineering manager that is trying to put everything together from an engineering perspective, and you have the product owner who is also very helpful towards the product aspect. And we have an agile coach who helps us to put some more structure regarding our day-to-day using Scrum or other agile methodologies. So in this kind of teams, we think that specialization is key. And since we are inside the team, we have different backgrounds and we are very different people, and we all have a common goal towards one part of the product. And this is starting to become sometimes very hard to understand how to cooperate between one another. But it's not that hard all the times because you kind of know how the other person works. We have a common belief of how we want to work in Fidel and who we are and what we stand for. And this is very easy to understand what the other person is also expecting and how the other person works inside Fidel. And I think Jorge is more suitable to talk a little bit about the values that we have at Fidel.
Yes, so when we have like this very big group of people, as Stefano was talking, that are working toward a common goal, there has to be something, like something that kind of blends these people together and can make each other recognizable from other people. And this is pretty much our core sets of values. So at Fidel, the people that are currently working and also the people that we want to join into our team needs to adhere to a set of value. It does not matter if people come from different cultures or different backgrounds, but there are certain things that we really value that come into together to form our company. We want people to be humble. We are building something that is very valuable, but it does not mean that like the ego needs to be given behind, like because we are all working toward the same goal. We need to be honest, not kind of like keep things to ourselves and work into the shadows. We need to be honest and give feedback to other people. We also need to be adaptable. We are in an industry that is changing very quickly, and we ourselves inside the company also can change very quickly, and we need to adapt to new situations. We need to be encouraging, like move people forward, not just ourselves. And we also need to be leaders because in a way or in another, we are all inspiring people that are around us. And this is like the way in which we kind of like inspire other people and move everybody forward. And this is kind of like the core of our presentation, because we have inside Fidel like a different set of cultures, so to say. And the first one that we are going to start talking is about the culture of collaboration that we have inside the company. So if you can move the next slide. And so collaboration is very important for us. So as you can see, we are different people. We are also from different backgrounds. And when it comes to the tools that we use, and when it comes to communication, as you can see in this wall of text here, like communication can get very messy very quickly, but with the correct set of tools, we can move forward into what we want. So we use the typical kind of like the Jira for our board. We also have Confluence that helps us keep everything organized when it comes to our documentation. We have Zoom for virtual meetings because we are people from all over the world. In Fidel, we really bust a culture of being completely remote. And yeah, like we are also different sets of team and different sets of people. And one thing that is curious about us is that we are an API first company, but that does not mean that the backend is the only important thing. And in this, I think that my colleague Andre can go a little bit more in deep.
Yeah, this is clearly a point that we wanted to touch, exactly because it speaks a lot about the collaboration that's needed between these parts that we're talking about. So the backend developers, the front end developers, and the QA. So as I was mentioning before, and like Jorge build up, we're an API, right? So for sure, the backend is the core. So we're basically doing sets of scheduling events, endpoints. So that for sure has to be the core. But that doesn't mean necessarily that the backend developer is the only necessary developer or is the most important developer, because what Fidel is providing, and basically I think you can transpire this to any other company, we're providing a set of features, right? We're defining products. It's a product suite in the end. So here when we make a joke or make the question, does an API have a front end? Yes, it has. And actually, why does it have? Because we're basically creating a web dashboard for our clients. We're basically showing up also internal tools, web internal tools that we use for support, that we use for monitoring. We also have, because we're actually providing also SDKs for our clients. We have web SDKs, iOS SDKs, Android SDK. So there's this all set of tools that are also core to our product offering, but they're not necessarily all 100% backend, right? So there's this synergy and the importance that different people need to take into account, like the front ends and the backends, to actually make this work. And here we have, again, like this last bullet point is the same as Stefanos was saying previously before when specifying the team. So specialization is key, right? There's everyone has a role, everyone has something that they're capable of, that they're specific to, that they can contribute. And again, it's not also so only front end and back end, right? We're here also with QA, and we poke a lot that we're doing the work and QA is basically breaking our work. So we don't want to fear QA, right, Stefanos? We don't want this.
Yeah, this is what happens most of the time. Like this is kind of let me use this analogy. Okay, so imagine that you developers like if you ask your mother and your father like, mom, dad, like who's the most beautiful kid in the world, what do you expect to hear, right? So developers are very proud of their work, but if you go and tell them like, hey, your work has flaws, it's natural that they come back to you and they don't like it. But it's not like that. Like QAs are there, like they're your friend. Like they can see your product and with an unbiased way, and they can try to poke around and try to find things that can make it better in the end. Not it's not about finding the bug and saying, okay, here's your bug, take it and fix it. It's about making things better and finding new ways to try to promote quality principles, because software has its own principles, and that's another whole another story. That you need to bring those quality principles into your everyday development, and the QA is there to help you, to sit with you and maybe act like as a rubber duck, where you go into the code and start asking questions. Why is this like that? What will happen if I do this? So you don't have to fear the QA. It's like your day-to-day doctor kind of. And yeah, oops. So yeah, we don't want you to fear QA. We're here to help you, and we're also here to write automation tests for you. That of course have tremendous advantage when you start to write automation testing, and you have confidence that when the project starts, it's small. You can control it, but when it starts to get like 2, 3, 5 years of product, you have tremendous amount of features that need to be tested, and the QA is there to help you understand what is tested with automation testing every day, and you can collaborate together and make sure that the next feature will not have an impact on the old features as well. And I think that there's also um, one other let's say persona that we are all kind of feared a little bit, more or less, and don't want to cooperate too much. But this also doesn't have to be the case, right? Because we have clients that we need to also work with every day, but sometimes we feel a little bit unwilling to do so. What do you think, Jorge?
That
I
is true,
know.
because like sometimes like collaboration can be a little bit hard even inside the company, because we have like these people that want different things and that expect different things for the product, and then we also have these people from outside the company, which are the users, that they also have their own sets of expectations. They provide us with feedback. They want things from the product that we need also to take into consideration, and for us this is very important. So we try always to collaborate with our customers, with our clients and users, to listen to their feedback, to see how can we improve this, how can we offer you more value, as well as like including them in things like alpha or beta testing. We've done that in the past with some products when it comes to some clients, and we also have some teams that are more dedicated into pretty much like following up with customer service and things like that to see where are our users at. Because when we collaborate as a team inside the company and outside, we can grow. And this is where like this thing that we are building up comes inside of culture, because we want to foster as well a culture of growing, a culture of always improving ourselves. And in these kind of things, this mesh with the kind of communities that we have and the ways in which as a team have different kind of meetings that help into that, right, Andre?
Apologize, I was muted. So there are a couple of things that come into play, right, with the growth, and well, it's usually end up with what Stefanos was showing at the beginning, right? There are a couple of how the teams and how the engineering team is organized, and Stefanos was talking about tribes and the little smaller communities, and you go from that until like the individual level, right? So if we look at the higher level, the engineering team as a whole, basically we have a bunch of gatherings that we do. Usually we have a product monthly that we do all the engineering together, that everyone shares knowledge. We actually sometimes use different tools like spatial chat that we're showing on the slide right now, and you can have different rooms, different topics are going on in parallel. People can join, share topics. So this all from like that tribe level that Stefanos was mentioning, right? Stefanos, I don't know if you want to point out anything more specific here?
Yeah, true. I think that we have a bunch of examples regarding different meetings that we have that help us, transfer information behind around. Like, I remember we have cross teams where different teams come bi-weekly together because they're working on the common part of the product and they want to plan as best as possible. We have also stakeholder meetings where we get to understand what our clients need and what we can build better for them. And we also have ad hoc meetings, and this is part like I think this is one of the most important aspects of growth inside CDL. Like you have kind of this micro culture, like this ad hoc meetings that happen whenever a solution needs to be found for an issue. That people come together, they form a small team, they sit around, analyze the issue, and maybe at the end of the day, maybe at the end of the week, they are dismantled and they go back to their original teams to work on their day-to-day tasks. And I think this is one of the most important aspects that you can go around, test, get involved in different aspects of the product, and get exposed to different issues and problems. And I think for me, this is one of the most important aspects of growth because you gain confidence and you gain a lot of new experience that you can then take it with you and apply it in your own domain at that point. And also, apart from all those meetings, I think that we have one no meeting day. But this is also important, like because you can focus. You have full day just to focus on your own tasks, and that's also pretty cool.
Yeah, and growth goes in several levels, right? Company, engineering. You went a little bit on a couple of details, and the next thing that we actually want to point out, right? It's the communities. Again,
True.
mentioned before, but why are these important? So these are a little bit, and here we're going to break not break the collaboration, but here we're going to silo it a little bit. So because we mentioned, and these are the communities that we have: the back end, the front end, and the QA communities. And this is where, so individually as a group, right? Individually, but as groups of communities of practice, because what are you practicing? So backend has a bunch of specificities, characteristics, knowledge that needs to be shared, that as a group you can share, because we have different product teams, right? So as we showed before, but everyone passes through similar pains. Some solutions need to be shared because they're more transversal, and these communities that we actually aggregate throughout once a week. We actually do these once a week, so they're super important to actually have this forum where people with similar mindset that are doing similar work can actually share these practices. So you can do questions, you have topics, and one thing that's very important that we actually do is, because these are also very technical in a way, where you're sharing, we're turning implicit knowledge from the individuals to more of an explicit group knowledge. We actually have there on the slide an image, if you can see, with a little bit of the pixelization, the effort that's put into those communities. We have people that are drivers that actually have the responsibility to actually make the community, the responsibilities, what happens when it happens, to make sure everything works. the moderators, which actually run the meetings. So you always need some sort of coordination and some people writing the information down and getting everything more organized. And then you can even have the history of all the meeting notes. We have actually like the storyline, the history of all the meetings that we have with recordings, so that everyone. So one thing is people that cannot join for some reason on that moment can still see the recordings, and also for posterity. So if we make any decision, or if we have any discussion that has key points that we need to save or want to save for the future, we have that documented. So again, I think it's very important to have this implicit knowledge go to explicit and in these smaller communities. So again, we went from like company, we went from the engineering, we go to communities, and then there's also something super important, right? We're global, we're growing super fast, and we have to
Yep.
go a little bit to the individual level, right? So us
Yes.
as individuals.
Yeah, because like even in this call, like we are not just from different technical backgrounds, we are also from different cultural backgrounds. Andre is from Portugal, Steve is from Greece, I'm from Venezuela. And just as us as like a small group have this different background, a lot of people from Fidel like come from different corners of the world. We are a global company and we are proud to be one. We are fully remote. We embrace people coming from different backgrounds because that is like a huge fuel for growth. You can learn a lot of things from people that have different experiences from you because they bring different ideas, different ways of growing, of talking, different ways of communicating with other users, with other customers. And this is really important. So we speak different languages, we have different nationalities, we are a global force of growing, and we are really, really proud of that. And it's something that what is fun is that we not only have this diverse cast of people, we also have a diverse cast of tools that we use. Tools for automation, for instance, and I'm sure that Steve can go a little bit more into that because it's this QA from here.
Yeah, true. Like I like the way that you said that we have different types of we have different nationalities, and everyone respects one another and transfers like their background to the other. And I want to add on this way that especially with automation, what we're doing is that we have people, for instance, developers taking a look at our PRs, and then at the same time QA is taking a look at the PRs of the developers. So we're like exchanging knowledge based on the automation, and we apply structure as much as we can, and helps us actually grow a lot better. So we try to minimize as much as possible the human error. We actually use let's say code formatting rules that we all agree upon, and we know that we can build as best the reliable code that we can. So it's very cool that all of us converge on top of the automation and exchange knowledge on this level. That's very helpful.
And it's also another way of seeing collaboration, right? We're collaborating with the machine in a way,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
We get
Exactly. Yeah.
we
Nice
get
point.
we were doing the topic says, right, the back and the front end and QA. We already put
Yeah.
the client already in a little bit uh, as an external participant, and we're developers, right? Everything that we do ultimately goes to some sort of tool or program or application, and the automation is part of that, right? So in a sense, this is like having the collaboration with the machine also. And then
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah, because like
completely.
we don't live in a vacuum, and as a company as well we don't. And something that we also strive for is to give back to other people, to like allowing like grow like this growth that we so like that we deem so pressure to also like make other people grow. So we have done some volunteer work, we have donated things to like organizations like Animal Life and things like that, and we really show like a keen interest in this kind of external activities because giving back is not only good, it's also fun. And another thing that we pride ourselves as a company is into fostering this kind of culture of fun, having fun, because life is more than work, right? So something that we have is game time, and Andre has participated, and Steve as well has participated with me in a lot of game time sessions.
Yeah, and that's you transitioned this perfectly when you talked about the volunteer and the animal life and a little bit what we did outside of like the technical work, because this is in a sense this bridges a gap, right? We were talking about collaboration and how we communicate, and then you were talking about how you grow individually, but from a technical point of view, and then you're talking about the communities, but then at the same time, right, we're still people that like to go outside and do different things. All of us have hobbies, and again, going a little bit back, you were talking about the diversity that we have. So everyone likes to do different things, everyone has different schedules, everyone is on different time zones, and it's super important then, and even more, and this has to be done a parenthesis, right, even more that we're doing this growth during COVID times. So it's even in a sense we're not afraid of technology, right? Every one of us is in this scenario, in this area, so we're clearly the the motivators and we're in the front end of technology, but it's hard, right? We have to go from, although we have the offices still running, we had to do both these game times and virtual offsites, Zoom based and Slack based and Jira based, like they were talked before, exactly because of where we are right now. But this is so super important because it's how we go beyond work. So how do I know that Jorge has these activities or Stefanos actually likes this or that? It's not during our work hours where we're concerned about, does this feature work? Are we going to deliver it by next Monday? Is the client happy? Is something wrong, or is there a bug or something that we need to check, right? And we have set up, and different people are responsible actually for different things that we're doing in this like fun culture, where we have different games, we have stretching mornings and afternoon full body workouts, we're doing virtual trips. We did and Jorge, correct me if I'm forgetting anything, beekeeping in Lisbon,
Yeah.
meditation with a Buddhist monk, we did Samba in Brazil,
We
um,
also did some tour in Greece, I think,
tour
in
in
Athens or
Greece, yeah,
something. Yeah.
yeah, we did the tour of Greece.
We
So
also had shows with drag queens as well. So
exactly, and how to do your own cocktails and stuff like that. So it in a sense it doesn't matter what it is because it can be anything, but it's just fun moments that you can actually do, and you also learn something, right? Learning how to do cocktails or even do meditation. How other way would you get it with your team colleagues if not doing these virtual trips? So you get this working, and this is company wide, everyone can participate, and it's of course it's optional. So if you have a meeting, a client, something, everything, anything that's being well, competing with this time, uh, it's optional, but these happen also very frequently. But besides company level, we can go like to Stefano's favorites, right? You go to coffee and and water cooler breaks. So and different.
Yeah, you got me. I love those, especially the water coolers. And okay, since now with COVID situation, so we have so many people around the world, we do it virtually, but it's pretty cool because I like them mostly because we tend to keep the discussions, or not tend, and we actually keep them. They keep the discussions outside of work, so it can be anything from, like, I don't know, flights to Azores, your recent trip to Madeira, or anything else like the Hangman that we played last time. So they're very cool. Like they get your mind off work and you feel like refreshed in order to continue your day. And if you don't want to join, it's okay. Like it's not mandatory, or whenever you feel like you can join. So I think those are pretty cool. And but these are like visual. We also had some, I think, some off off office, let's say, but still
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
on the play.
they have
Like,
they
paddle.
have been a little bit reduced now, like because of
Yeah.
COVID. But we still have. I think that every other Monday we go play paddle in Lisbon. I know that I've been at least twice, although I'm not much of a sports fan. But it's nice because, like, even if you don't like paddle that much, you can go and drink a beer or things like that, and those are usually like on the house, so I just feel that pays for that kind of stuff, which is always nice. And yeah, like the fact that even though we have offices, no one is like obliged to go into one, and it's also nice. Pretty much like when you go to the office, it's actually when you work less, which is a little bit strange. But since you want to communicate with people and just like learn more about each other, that's what usually tends to happen. And another fun thing is that not only people go to the office, but we also have pets sometimes there. So
Yeah, and here again, it's super important. And why? With all the situation that we're currently living, right? COVID, and everyone, or more often than not, we're remote. But then there's these activities that we still try to do carefully in person, uh, like Jorge was saying, even the pets, not allowing more diversity, if you can say this, into the office is super important, because we need this right now, right? So we are more and more need this, the social gatherings, but we're worried about what's happening at home. That's why we sometimes go to the office, sometimes we stay home, and having this flexibility, and the pet being pet friendly is just one example. And Fidel was actually named like one of the London companies in London more pet friendly, exactly because dogs were in the office frequently. So it's not something that people just said, okay, you can bring your pet to work and no one actually takes it. No, pets are really there at work. So of course this is a matter of responsibility still, yeah, and you need to take care of it. But this is also an opportunity for people to engage in other activities. So you're working, you see your colleague's pet, everyone pets him, and then someone needs to take him outside, and it's not you because you're at the meeting. Your colleague actually takes the dog outside. So this makes a more fun and promotes this type of engagement, right? Pet is another way, and it's part of everyone's like family, but it's another way for collaboration to actually happen in the office. So this is an excuse, right? It's the same as what we were talking about, the virtual coffees, the water coolers. All of them are excuses to promote and to motivate people to actually engage with each other. And that's awesome, because this is literally, you can't see a dog with those glasses and not laugh, right? You can't, it puts a smile on your face. It has to. So this is incredibly important. And one of the things that, if we start making a couple of conclusions from this talk, and one thing that for sure we want everyone here to actually leave is this super sentence, right? Which is, don't screw up your culture. If you have a good culture, don't screw it up, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this reminds me of this analogy with, you have the goose that lays golden eggs, but if you try to push it, to squeeze it, you will get more of it, but then you lose it, right? So you have to maintain it and keep up. And if you take care of it, it will take care of you at the end of the day. That's the most important.
yeah, and we also truly believe that this is like this works, like this kind of collaboration, this kind of culture does work. Like it makes for happier people, and happier people do better stuff, because that's usually how it works. We are humans, and that is something that is important to always have into consideration. We are not just a cog inside a machine. We are people, and people need to collaborate, people need to grow, people need to have fun. So yes, we believe that this works, and this is the way moving forward.
Exactly. So if you have a good culture, for sure, don't screw it up. Work on it. Try to engage it. Try to enhance it. Try to see what works. Focus on your values. At least for us, what we were trying to show and prove is that these activities work. Like Jorge said, yes, they do work. And if this talk can motivate you to do something, and like the message in the screen says right now, this is the way. For sure, it's not the only way, but this is one way, right? And if these activities that you saw here, if your company is not doing them, or if this is something that you're doing one and not doing the other, maybe this gives you ideas to also think of new things to do in the future. We're doing this right now. So if something, maybe now we have game times per week, maybe we should do it bi-weekly. Maybe we should don't do game times and replace it with something else. Maybe as COVID reduces, maybe we start putting more in-person activities and reduce the virtual. So there's no one way, although this is the way, but there's several ways. But this is something that at least everyone should focus on. We have a couple of more slides regarding some of the challenges that we have in the future, but this was supposed to be more interactive. So I think we were good to open for Q&A if anyone wants to share some experience or actually ask any specific question regarding of what we do to actually foster this collaboration. So I don't know if Anna can do the scheduling if there are questions, and we can take it from there.
Sorry, I was struggling with my mic. So we already have one question from Ricardo Onodera. How do you give feedback to employees?
That's a well, we can probably take all of these, but feedback. So feedback super important, right? But this is also part of the culture. So our feedback is done mostly annually, but we also have some at the semester. So it's at 6 months, but usually it's annually, and it's based on those core values that you saw at the beginning. So those core values of being a leader, being adaptable, they are specified then into different questions, but this is how we try to maintain culture also on new hires, and every candidate that we interview and everyone that comes in, and how we are evaluated also throughout the year. So not only we're interested in how you did technically, completed projects, how you worked with your team and so on, but if you're still aligned with those values. Because again, don't screw up the culture, right? We need to keep measuring that to see if no one individually or as a group is screwing up the culture. Um,
And on top
I
of
think
that,
it's
yeah, you get peer reviews based on those values. So the people you work with most of the time review you and give you feedback back, and you give to them.
And it's also worth adding that like continually we also like are encouraged to give feedback. Like there is nothing preventing you to reaching someone over and telling some piece of constructive feedback. Also as a company, we try as well to be honest and give feedback when it comes to processes that may not be working as expected or things that we may want to implement. There is also when it comes to code reviews and things like that, a lot of constructive feedback is given. So it's very much embedded into our company's culture.
Okay, perfect, guys. Thank you so much for your answer. Right now, we have a question from Adam Moretti. What is something you have learned in terms of a new skill at Fidel?
I'll do the fun part that we were showing before. So I think I never learned the number of games that we did. So but most of them I had never heard about them. Some of them are very UK and British, so that you would never hear about it. And again, still staying on the fun part of it, the virtual offsites and the virtual trips that we did. Some were so strange, like I never went to Greece and we did the Greece one. The beekeeping, I had no experience with those things. So from a non-work point of view, a bunch of learnings in that part.
Stefanos, George, do you want to share something that you might have learned?
From work, Andre talked about the fun part. I will talk about the work part. For instance, we run a very big stack, and we have a lot of different um, um, skill sets that we need to work on. So, for instance, I didn't know anything about AWS, and 4 months after, like with the support of my teammates and everyone else, like I know much more, and I really like that I keep on learning about this kind of stuff. So that's just one example of learning a new tech skill, for instance, in this case.
Okay, so now I'm left with something that is not work and not fun related. Let me think about something. But yeah, I think that like something that I've learned is to collaborate with way more people than I had before. This is the largest company I've been working at. And there are some learnings into that and like the growing that we are having as well. There is a lot of things to take, like directing meetings, things like that. So it's been a lot of fun learning a lot of things.
Perfect, thank you. And moving forward to the next question from Beatriz Lorenz. How do you ensure an inclusive culture by having people working remotely from different locations?
I think
Eh,
that a lot of that comes in the kind of documentation that we have, because something that is important is that when you have people, like when you have everybody working inside and when you have everybody working remotely, communication is usually like done in an agreed way because everybody is on the same space. However, when you start having people that are working in the office and people that are working remotely, that is when you start having issues of communication because you have a meeting with everybody, but then the meeting ends and the people that are in the office keep talking about the subject. And this is kind of like little consideration with the people that are not in the office. So something that we try to be mindful about it is that things need to be documented. And if conversations are going to keep outside of online meetings, they have to also be documented as well to keep everybody on the same page.
Yeah, and one thing I would like to add there is that when we're doing actually the remote calls and everything, so it's super, and I think it's we never talked about it being mandatory or anything, but I would say that 99% everyone has the camera on. And I think that's another thing that helps, right? It reduces a little bit the feeling that you're talking to the machine, you're just hearing audio or hearing text. So there's again, I think this is literally the definition is by culture because everyone is doing it, and I don't think I never heard, at least in more than almost 2 years, I never heard anyone saying, or at least motivating to turn on camera, yes, but saying it's mandatory. But you do this, you start doing this as a culture. You also want to see the other face on the other side of the call, and we do this on calls with nowadays with more than 100 people. So you see the 100, literally 100 faces. And I think that's on top of what Jorge was saying. That's super important to also keep the engagement and the initiatives. Yeah.
One thing I'd like to add to this is because we have, for instance, we have our dailies every day. All the teams have their own dailies. And for instance, because we have people working remotely and specifically from Latin America, for instance, there is one specific team that has changed those dailies and from the morning in order to do it on the in the afternoon, all the dailies, because they have one person working from that point, and it would be very hard for him to keep up during the night to wake up and do the daily. So the whole team changed this in order to include this person as well.
That's amazing. And we have another question from Evan. What are you most looking forward to do this year at Fidel?
We can continue on the topic, and I think and I think this is the key, right? Is we're going to double, like we mentioned at the beginning, or at least the plans are to double. And double, it's not only the people, right? We're doubling the people because we're doubling projects, we're doubling what we're doing. So it's the keeping up, I think. So we got into a stage, right? We're happy about it, but things can change, and this is something that needs continuous work. You need new initiatives, you need changes. Something that works for 20 people doesn't work for 50, and something that works for 50 doesn't, it's for sure not going to work for 200, right? So it's the continuous adaptation. So we need to learn, iterate. It's like a feedback loop, right? So and this culture, it works. We're doing this, but it also needs work, right? This doesn't come for free.
Thank you, Andre. And this was our final question. I'm sure that you have more content that you want to share with our attendees.
Yeah, this last question actually threw us a little bit off because this was exactly what we wanted to point out, right? And I don't know, Jorge or Stefanis, you want to add just something on this? But I think we really wanted to focus on that culture takes effort, right? Also, it's you have to
Yeah,
work on it.
yeah, I think that like the biggest challenge that we are going to have moving forward is precisely the growth that we are having, because we are going to do like double the amount of people by the end of this year, which is very exciting, but it can also be very scary as well, because as you probably noticed, like we are very proud of what we have in terms of culture, in terms of people, and when you have a lot of people coming in, it becomes crucial that you kind of like keep the culture, that you don't screw things up. Like the front end team, for instance, it has, at least since I joined, it had quite like it was a very small team, especially compared to the back end. But right now we've been scaling quite a bit, and that on one hand has allowed us to kind of ponder about our hiring processes and how we handle things as a team. And one good thing that we have is that since the backend team already passed through all of that, we are learning a lot from there. We are picking some of their things and applying into our processes. Yeah, like when it comes to growth, this is the most challenging things. We are growing in terms of teams as well, in products inside the company. And yeah, it's the thing that we are kind of more looking forward.
Agree. And since it was already being said in the chat, but since we're at Landing.Jobs, right? We need to we need to keep aligned. So another thing that we need to keep aligned and collaborate with now it's Landing.Jobs. So again, the message that we were passing for the culture and for the growth. So if this is something that resonates with you, if you're interested in this type of culture, and if you want to be, at least make sure that we're not telling any lies, so feel free to check out our careers page. We're basically hiring for any role. You can see we're product owners. We need backend developers, frontends again, QAs. If you want to help out Stefanos, testing the code that myself and Jorge have developed. So check out our careers page. Check out the blog that was also mentioned on the chat. And if this makes sense, drop us a line, drop through Landing.Jobs or directly through us, and we for sure will be pretty interested in getting to know you. So anything, just let us know. Nana, I think back to you then.
And I'm back. So thank you so much for your time, Andres, Stefanos, and George, and thank you for everyone that joined us today. It was a great presentation. As you already know, Fidel is amazing. So for the ones that participated with some questions and also by typing in the chat, thank you so much for being here. Don't forget that Fidel is currently recruiting, and if you want to know more about their jobs, check them in Landing.Jobs, and also check the blog. The link was shared on the chat, so feel free to check it out. I hope to see you soon. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
everybody. Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you.
a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.